Good afternoon, everybody. Last year, we gathered on Library Plaza for our inauguration. It was a beautiful day, filled with music, a time to make and renew connections. It was a time to look to the West, to the next chapter in Union's story. That was a special day, and I'll forever be grateful for the many people who made that possible and made it a success. However, because of inauguration, we did not hold the traditional opening event of the academic year, which is Convocation. I appreciate the opportunity to return to this tradition today as we gather as a community to welcome our new students, our new faculty, our new staff, to officially begin the year and share some thoughts about the year ahead. When the music and speeches are over, they'll end, we'll gather by the knot to deepen our sense of community over a shared meal as we reconnect with old friends and make new ones. Welcome to those who are returning to campus and to those who are here throughout the summer. You've created a culture and an infrastructure that are responsible for the success of Union College to date, and they'll enable its future success. Those of us who are new or newer are the beneficiaries of your hard work and your keen insights. We look forward to working with you to build on the tremendous foundation laid by you and those who came before you. I also want to welcome the new members of the Union community to the 1920 academic year. Welcome to the 552 members of the class of 2023 and the 18 transfer students. Welcome. The class has exceptional credentials, tremendous accomplishments, and it's one of the most diverse in Union's history. The class is 46.2% female, 12.5% international. Among U.S. citizens and permanent residents, 23.6% are people of color, with the largest group being Latinx, followed by Asian American, African American, and people who identify as two or more races. The percentage of women is up from last year. The percentage of internationals and people of color are each the largest in Union College's history. Welcome to the 20 new faculty who are joining us this year. That represents nearly 1/10 of our faculty. These new hires represent many disciplines, and they bring to this campus experience from a diverse array of colleges and universities. I was impressed to meet many of the new faculty last week and learn that they were attending a 4-day orientation. What made it even more impressive is that some of the faculty I met don't even start their appointment until January, yet they made the effort to come to campus to be here. Why? Because they wanted to get to know each other. They wanted to get to know current faculty. And because, like Professor Marzo, Professor Nelson Mukherjee, they wanted to learn what resources are available to help them be teacher scholars and contribute the way so many existing faculty do. Congratulations to the Dean's Office. Congratulations to the faculty on tremendous hires, individuals who've already demonstrated that they understand and value the key aspects that have made Union faculty special for so many years. And welcome to the 76 new staff members, including administrators, who joined our community since last September. It's been a pleasure getting to know many of you, be it in your place of work on campus, be it in my office hours where I've met some, be it just walking across campus. It's great to see all of you, and I also want to acknowledge 2 new members of my senior staff who've joined this calendar year. You're going to have to stand up. Michelle Gibson, who's joined us as our VP for Administration and Finance. And our newest member, Francie Brown McClure, joins us as Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. Welcome one and all to Union College. I'll use the remainder of my time to share a few highlights from the year ahead, and also to talk a little about the strategic plan, which is about to move from the planning phase to the implementation phase. I've got 10 points, 5 on each. So first, what's going to happen this year? A lot will happen this year, but you do not want to be here till 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, so I'm limiting myself to 5. First, the completion of the Integrated Science Engineering Complex. I was joking with Strom Thacker that said 50 years ago they're building a science engineering complex. I assure you it is not the same science engineering complex we are building now. This is the largest and most complex facilities project in Union's history. When they're done, this will be this amazing project that fits in with the existing architecture and brings to us amazing new space for research, for teaching. I see students studying and just engaging with one another there and building community. What's been open already has had a huge positive impact on the campus. I can't wait to see what happens when the rest of this is completed later this year. Second, as you heard already, we will be celebrating 50 years of coeducation at Union College. It was the spring of '69, as you heard, when the trustees voted to approve admitting female students to Union College. And there's a really interesting report that was written at that time, which I have read, and it's quite interesting reading on how people think and how that changes over time, I'll just say. In September 1970, Union welcomed 126 women to campus. That's 126 women out of a class of 450. And working with faculty, with staff, and with students and alumni around the country, you're going to see a whole year of events, of programs, of exhibits to highlight the impact of Union College women, both on campus and the impact in the world. As you also heard, we're celebrating 50 years of the launch of Study Abroad, which I like to call Study Away, because we do have a number of programs that are in the U.S. And when I ask alumni about their highlights at Union, as I do regularly, it's one of my stock questions for alumni when I meet them, it's amazing how many of them tell me a story about a country they went to. They tell me about being there with faculty, they tell me about being there with other Union students, and they talk about how they learned things they would not have learned otherwise if they weren't immersed in this culture with these individuals. I can think about the doctor who says learning about art in Italy changed her appreciation the way she engages with patients. I can think on and on. It's 50 years. That's been a critical part of our experience here at Union College. Fourth, we'll be following up on messages I shared with the community last October and at a town hall meeting in spring about sexual assault and misconduct. I observed then, and I'll observe now, that sexual assault is a problem in the United States. Sexual assault is a problem on college campuses, and Union College is not immune. As in all aspects of college and all aspects of life, we must focus on continuous improvement. We are working to identify and implement policy and practice enhancements. We are guided by external experts and lessons learned from Union and other organizations. We're working closely with students, faculty, and staff on an advisory group. I also want to comment that in addition to being a place where all feel comfortable reporting sexual assault and misconduct, if it does occur, where these reports are investigated thoroughly and appropriate actions are taken, we must not forget the critical importance of education and prevention. As with all aspects of the college, we as senior administrators, as staff, and as faculty have a substantial role, but so too do students, in part because you're going to be places where we are not, but also because we know that everyone in this community is committed to Union being a place where everyone can achieve to their full potential. I look forward to working together to become a model for other organizations seeking to prevent, to investigate, and address the important issue of sexual assault and misconduct. And last, I announced a couple of weeks ago a new position, which is Vice President for Communications and Marketing. This will replace our existing Chief Communications Officer. We'll work closely with me, with other senior leaders, and people across campus. What I've come to appreciate over the last year, even more than I knew a year ago, is what an exceptional place Union College is. As we embark on our next chapter, we must clearly articulate Union's distinctiveness. We must find new and more effective ways to tell stories of our faculty, our students, our staff, and our alumni to those who know us, to those who do not yet know us, across generations, across geographies, and across communication styles. So that's 5 of the many things that you're going to see this year. And the fun part about my job, there's a whole bunch of things I'm going to talk about at the end of the year that I have no idea are going to happen. That's how it is in every year. Some of those will be the most exciting things that happen. Now, what about the strategic plan? So we're about to shift, as I said, from this phase of planning to this phase of implementation. I'm truly impressed by this community, by the engagement of this community in the strategic planning process, not only by the time people have committed, but by the many insights that have been shared to make this plan stronger. This next opportunity is Friday during Common Hour. If you're a first year, hopefully you've figured out what Common Hour is so far. That's 12:50 to 1:50-ish. A lot of things will occur then. Last week, I had a group of students at my house, and sitting there, one of them asked me a question. He said, "So what have you been doing this summer?" I said, "I spent a lot of time working on the strategic plan." And then, I love the student just said, "So how does that affect me? Effectively, why should I care?" And I shared with him that the strategic plan will drive decisions this school makes over the next 5 to 7 years. It will lay the groundwork. It will enable in some ways and be constraints in other ways for the things we'll do in the years that follow. This is important now, perhaps more important than it's been in a very long time, because in higher education we face headwinds. You see, in addition to doing a strategic plan this summer, I spent more time on my bike, which made me very happy. And it was on one of those rides, I thought about headwinds. I thought about, I felt like I was riding as strong as I always had been. I thought my bike was the same bike, but somehow I wasn't getting where I wanted to go as fast as I expected to. Headwinds are something that sometimes make you go slower. Sometimes they prevent you from getting there at all. So what are the headwinds in higher education? Well, first, there's a declining college-age population, especially in areas where Union College and other liberal arts colleges are located and where we tend to recruit our students. Second, and something the students and their families have no doubt noticed, the high cost of higher education at Union College and at all of our peer schools and private schools. The cost of higher education in the United States at private schools, at least in some cases beyond, if you're out of state going to an in-state school, that sticker price, it's higher than the median family income in the United States. Third, attacks from many sides. Attacks from many sides on the value of liberal education as opposed to narrower educational and experiential preparation for a specific career. And of course, by liberal, I'm not talking about politics, I'm talking about breadth and depth. So what? What's the result of these headwinds? The result is that schools are finding it far more difficult than they had in the past to attract the number and diversity of students that they want, especially given finite budgets and financial aid budgets in particular. There was a really interesting article this week, the kind of article you don't tend to see. It was from the VP for Enrollment at Bucknell. And he wrote an article that was published in the Chronicle of Higher Ed, widely read, "The Great Enrollment Crash," in which he acknowledged that Bucknell had a really hard time meeting its numbers, which is something Bucknell would not have expected to have happened, and it had not happened in the past. This also affects our donors, as people's interests are in other places, and we're less likely to find donations for discretionary things, those things we think are important, but someone isn't necessarily focused on. So what's all this mean for Union College? What's this all mean for the strategic plan? It means we have to make the case that despite the high cost, Union continues to be the place to prepare people for known and unknown futures. So what do we do in the strategic plan? I'll give you the vision and 5 highlights. First, vision for the school, what do we do? What we do is we develop every student to lead with wisdom, with empathy, and with courage, in ways large and small, now and across multiple tomorrows. That's what we do at Union College. What does that mean? Well, the first thing is develop. We've brought in amazing students here, amazing faculty, amazing staff, but we start with agreement that none of us are done, that we're all developing in many ways and all ways. Secondly, every student. I like to say these 2 words are perhaps the most overlooked part of that vision sentence, but they may well be the most important part. What it means is that we're not going to be anecdotal, we're going to be intentional. It means we're not going to find a student, someone who's had an experience, and say, "Isn't it great?" We're going to look and say, "Why didn't everybody have that kind of experience?" That's what's going to drive us. It has and will continue, and even more so, drive us at Union College. It means leading. It means making a difference, often by showing the way. It means wisdom, built on knowledge, enhanced by experience. It means empathy. It means appreciating others' paths and perspectives, and it means courage. It means doing what is hard. We talk about large and small now and across multiple tomorrows. So as we engage in the strategic planning process, we observed that there's one word that more than any other emerged as key to what we are and what we must be. The word is in front of me. I'm looking at it on many of you. The word is union. Union's not just our name. It's also the key to our future success. The strategic plan is about the power of unions, between ideas, between approaches, between individuals, between groups, and how those ideas, individuals, groups, and approaches will power this school and power the people of this school to achieve things we can't imagine for ourselves. So 5 points, 5 powers of union, if you will. The first, it's about the power of union between tradition and innovation. Union, as you've heard, is a 225-year-old college. But we appreciate that long histories do not entitle us to long futures. I can see this power in the example of Professor Kristen Bedoshi for Modern Language and Literatures. She has a perennial challenge. She came by and talked with me a couple weeks ago and shared this perennial challenge. The challenge is, and I got to trust her on this one because I don't know any Russian, that Russian as a language has, for action verbs, it's not just adding a suffix, it's not just changing a tense, it's a totally different word. If you want to say, for example, I go or I'm going to go and come back. This is the kind of thing students learn when they study abroad. They're immersed in that environment. It's harder to learn in the classroom. But this summer, thinking about tradition and learning language, but innovation, she worked with Zihu, a student at Union College, to create a virtual reality campus experience in Russian that will positively impact the teaching of Russian now, and who knows, maybe we'll end up using this for other languages in the years to come. And we have this wonderful new virtual reality space in Wold I hope you'll check out, where we could explore opportunities such as this. Second, the power of union between liberal arts and engineering. And I say engineering, I mean engineering and computer science, as we characterize it here at Union College. First, we must re-examine how many faculty we have and how they're distributed across the school. We are actively engaged in re-examining our general education requirements. Now you think gen ed, who cares? Gen ed is critically important. It's what links every student here to these gen ed requirements. It addresses the question of what do we think people should know, at a minimum, coming from Union College, and starts to address how should they learn it. Now, Union has this range of offerings, but Union's integrated approach must ensure that, for example, the engineer appreciates the cultural, historical, and economic forces that determine an innovation's necessity, its value, its impact, just as the historian will appreciate how analysis and visualization of novel data can provide deeper understanding of cultures and events. Third, the power of union between the classroom and the experiential. There's so many examples I could give you that I've seen in the last year. Here's 2. The mechanical engineer who talked to me about the fact that his classes were amazing, but he really learned engineering when he became a member of the Baja team, when they had to design, plan, manufacture, and race an all-terrain vehicle. Of the student I talked with who said, I love my courses in history. I'm learning about social change. But you know, I got involved in political causes on campus in Schenectady, and that cemented what I was learning in the classroom. But perhaps none of these are more powerful than the stories of the students I had lunch with about a month ago. These are students who were in Professor Carol Weiss's Death and Dying class. And then they spent the summer working at CARE, Community Action, Research, and Education. This project emerged from Professor Weiss's research. As we said, the research and the teaching, there's a close link in many cases. She places students in residential homes where they provide hospice care. A young woman told me that she thought she understood death and dying from class, but she has a much deeper understanding after building relationships with people at the end of their lives and becoming close to their family and friends. The young woman's interested on health sciences track, as many of the students are, pre-med, physician's assistants. And what I heard from them, and some of them have parents who are physicians, who said they're already beyond where their parents were because of this experiences they have had, in addition to what they learned in the classroom. I also love the students who aren't on health sciences track at all. They were involved in this experience because they wanted to better understand this important part of our world. Fourth, the power of union between gown and town, which seems appropriate given how I'm dressed today. Now, last week, I spent about half a day, it was a fun day, riding my bike around town, shooting a video. The goal was to show alumni and prospective students who've not been to town lately all that this place has to offer. The learning opportunities, the dining, the recreation, the entertainment. I could have spent a lot longer, but I had limited time. Here's 2 examples. As I often have talked about proctors, I think you can't emphasize enough this resource we have, this place called Schenectady. Half a mile away, we have Broadway shows coming through. But the part I want you to keep in mind is not only are there amazing shows, Proctor's has over 20 interns every year. It's an amazing place for our students to go to learn about production, about marketing, about community outreach, and so many other things you can learn about in that environment. And then Cocoa House. I'm not sure if the students, I think a bunch of them have graduated, but last year, they kept coming after me. You gotta go to Cocoa House. Gotta go to Cocoa House. I thought, what is that Cocoa House? And so finally, my youngest and we went to Cocoa House. And they were right. It's an elementary school, a program that focuses on elementary school children. It's a mentoring program. And as with any excellent mentoring program, both the elementary school students and the many union students who participate grow and benefit from the experience. The historic, revitalizing city of Schenectady, the Capital District, and the nearby Adirondack Park provide abundant educational, cultural, social, recreational, community engagement, and internship opportunities. Being more intentional about how we partner with local communities will benefit Union College, and it will benefit our local communities. And last, the power of union between excellence and access. There are many others, but there's just 5 for today. The power of union between excellence and access. Now, union's a special place with a long history of impressive accomplishments. I am confident that the work we'll engage in this year and in the coming years will make us even stronger. I'm also confident we won't be successful if excellence is only available to those fortunate enough to be born wealthy, those fortunate enough to come from groups that have long been part of this school's history. There's much work for us to do ahead on issues of inclusion and engagement, from what some may consider small, like what music we play, what's performed at events, and what's considered normal life experiences, to how we learn to really hear one another across perspectives and engage in constructive, honest, and respectful dialogues. And there's much work also to do on extending Making You Possible, an initiative we launched in December, and we've already raised $4.4 million to ensure that students are not only able to attend union, but that they also have the resources required for a full union experience. Not just here, but you're having a full union experience. Thanks to the generosity of union alumni and friends, we're supporting Prio Programs, we're supporting internships, we're supporting study away, we're supporting summer research, we're supporting financial aid, and so many other things. Here's an example. I'm a big fan of the Prio Programs. A bunch of students did pre-orientation programs, right? Hopefully had good experience. 175 students on Prio Programs. 109 of those students received some form of financial assistance to do Prio Programs. Now, Prio Programs cost $275 to $375. And you can imagine that many would say, it's not that big a deal. But if you're a family who's trying to figure out, how am I going to pay for books in the fall? And how am I going to pay for books in the spring by the time I get there? The notion that you're going to spend $200 or $300 or $400 doing a Prio program and not work those days is something you might not even want to raise with your parents. But because we can help more students do this, we do not have anywhere near as much of an inclusion gap on day one as we would have. Because I was out there in the fields with the students picking weeds and picking pumpkins and gourds, and as I said to many, trying to figure out what okra looks like so I didn't accidentally weed it. That was challenging. I saw relationships being built. I saw community being built. I saw it being built across lines of race, gender, and SES, and so many other things. Doing Prio is a full part of the union experience, and I'm really proud that we're able to help more students participate in it. But this year, we'll take on yet another challenge of Making You Possible. It's a challenge that will, albeit benefit students who will come in the future, as in starting next year. But what we're seeking to do is to address a mismatch. It's the mismatch between what formulas indicate parents can contribute towards college and what parents reasonably believe is possible. This gap is one reason that there are many people who would love to be at Union College, who are team admitted, who are exceptional students, and they're not sitting here today. We need to address it, and it's a focus we will focus on it this year. So when I see students around campus or after graduation, I want every one of you to be able to tell me about not only your enriching and challenging union education, I want to know you were able to take advantage of the full union experience in the curriculum, on campus, and around the world. These are just a few of the unions that power this great college and our people to achieve beyond what anyone thought possible. They are a few of the powerful unions that will ensure we thrive in the challenging days ahead. For 2.25 centuries, Union College has been an innovator in liberal education, making its curriculum relevant to the contemporary world. Throughout our long history, we've placed a premium on the ability of a liberal arts perspective to create a good unto itself, but also to prepare students to effectively address the social, political, and economic challenges our communities face, locally, nationally, and globally. In our interconnected and rapidly changing world, it's more important than ever that union students also develop skills and have experiences, learning from successes and failures alike, that will enable them to produce, to synthesize, to assess, and to employ knowledge. With this strategic plan, we will leverage our unique academic offerings and invest in immersive experiences to ensure that every student develops the skills and knowledge to lead, no matter what the future holds. Rather than prepare students for a specific and known tomorrow, we're preparing students to lead across multiple tomorrows. The full union experience that many have constructed over the years must now be intentional and expected part of what it means to be a union student. We confidently forge ahead, together, now, and in the years ahead. Thank you.